6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
Like, what a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com. I am Chris Golden at Lightforce, dealing with technology that does not want to get along with me on a holiday long weekend, but thankfully I have been joined by the wonderfully effervescent Anna Forsyth at aforsyth03.
Hi. Yeah, I think the whole general mood of things is just, it's hot. Technology doesn't want to work. There's smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's a holiday.
Is your place humid?
No, but as soon as you step outside, yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, it's just so muggy.
Mm-hmm. That's my condo right now.
Okay.
Like outside, there's some respite because there's a little bit of a breeze out there. In here, there is no breeze.
So, yeah, I've actually been staying in New West from Thursday until yesterday.
Oh, that's right. You were pet sitting.
Oh, yeah, I was dog sitting. A little terrier called Vinny, who's a delight. I mean, unless there are buses or vans or trucks around, he's a delight. But yeah, there's just
buses, trucks, and vans.
Yeah, but like being in New West, there's just so many hills, and you just get so hot and sweaty just from moving around.
Yeah, I get hot and sweaty by waking up.
Yeah.
Like, we have air conditioning in our bedroom, which is nice, but then when I leave the bedroom and I walk in, it's like, oh, it's brutal. Mm-hmm. I'm built for winter. I
know. At these difficult times, we're actually weirdly looking forward to rain, hopefully later this week, to clear out some smoke.
Yeah, that'll be nice. What else are we looking forward to? Well, I think the fact that the Vancouver Canucks got busy since our last episode.
They really did. A lot's happened.
Well, so, I mean, in fairness, we didn't really plan our schedule so well because had, let's see, expansion, free agency, and entry draft, like all of that stuff happened since the last show. Right.
But I mean, either way, we were going to deal with a bumper because we had to preview those things as well. So.
Oh, no, I know. It's just that I, didn't really think about that. And then on top of that, Trader Jim was trading.
Yeah, so all our draft talk was worthless.
Right. Then signing Jim started signing.
Mm-hmm.
Drafting Jim had to wait before drafting.
Yeah. So once again, Canucks fans with little to, look forward to on that first draft evening. Yeah.
But you know what? Let's talk all about that in Rewind. Where should we start? Should we start with the expansion draft?
I mean, timeline-wise, that makes sense. So,
like, I'm kind of like in this weird spot because, like, it affects the Canucks, but it affects the Kraken more. And while we are a Canucks podcast who's friendly to Kraken fans, for those that don't know. If you're a Kraken fan, join C4 Discord. We've got a channel specifically for you, Pike Place. And then, unfortunately, there were a few people that thought it was about coffee.
I mean, you can talk about coffee in there, or fish. Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, the Vancouver Canucks lost Kole Lind, which I'm sort of thinking this through. If we go all the way back to when John Barr joined us, like end of 2020, mm-hmm. John said, I think Kole Lind is the guy the Kraken are probably going to take. Now, obviously a lot went on between then and now. We sat down with Andy. We sat down with Darren. Both of them thought Lind as well. However, with everything that had been going on in the world of Vancouver Canucks and the fact that Jake Virtanen who is formerly of the Vancouver Canucks now, wasn't going to be protected, that freed up a spot to protect a player like Kole Lind.
Yeah.
But what happened, Anna?
Well, then they went and signed Jason Dickinson. Well, they traded for Jason Dickinson. So that spot gone. And we thought, okay, well, I think we settled before in the previous episode that there's a possibility they could take Holtby or someone else, but we would lean towards Lind, right? And lo and behold, Lind was the guy. And in case there was any doubt, all the picks came out the day before, apart from Detroit, who came out morning of, so no surprises by the time the actual expansion draft rolled around.
Going a little off the rails here, what are your thoughts on the picks coming out? Like, there were some who were quite livid with Frank Saravelli and how he ruined hockey for them. But, like, I'm sorry, are we not always clamoring for news?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yes, it does make it made the show less exciting. Of course it did. But at the same time, like, he's a reporter, he's going to report on news he gets.
Oh, no, damn straight. Like, there was someone who actually, I think, made a very salient comment. If anyone has the right to be upset with Frank Saravelli and a few others, I mean, Frank was the guy, though. He seemed to have every pick. Was the NHL's new broadcast partner in ESPN, because it took away from some of their broadcast pop. But in the grand scheme of things, I think we as fans, we want to hear the juice, and that's what Frank was giving us. He was giving us straight out of the straw, man. It was phenomenal. And if anything, it helped actually add a little bit of it took away the suspense, but it added a little more, I don't know, gravitas to the experience, because it already had us having these conversations, and that started, precipitating, are there side deals? Is there more to this? Because Frank's just telling us who they're taking. No,
yeah.
Why? But
I think if you really cared, just stay off Twitter for the day. Which I think, honestly, if I was a Kraken fan, I probably would have. Like, if I was going to the event, I would have stayed off Twitter and found out on the day.
Yeah. I obviously not a Kraken fan, so I didn't really care. I will admit, I was somewhat surprised with the roster the Kraken had put together, including Kole Lind. Like, let's consider what they could take from Vancouver. Holtby was going to be some crazy money for one season. It made little sense. The Vancouver Canucks didn't do anything else crazy, like leave Myers unprotected or something like that. But
not that that would have mattered, but yes.
No. But, when you look at what the Kraken allowed themselves to acquire, was a ton of cap space. So I thought that we were going to see the Kraken get real busy going into whether it be free agency or the entry draft and weaponize the cap space. And they didn't quite do that yet, which we'll get into, I think, in a little while. But the point is, Kraken have an interesting team, nothing like what we saw the Golden Knights put together.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Yeah. Shame on you, shame on me. You get the picture. GMs
totally
weren't going to had the wool pull over their eyes twice.
Yeah, but Kole Lind, I mean, do the Vancouver Canucks feel that loss? I'm not trying to knock the player. I would have rather, he not be lost. But it also, I think, speaks loudly to how devoid the Vancouver Canucks unprotected list happened to be.
Yeah.
When Seattle's taking a flyer on a player that might work out, might not.
Yeah, I think that kind of says it, really, that the Canucks ended up being in a no-lose situation purely because of their roster and pool being shallow.
Yeah. So here we have the Vancouver Canucks obviously lose Kole Lind, and as you had already talked about, Trader Jim was trading. He acquired Dickinson for, was it, I think, a third-round pick?
Mm-hmm.
Which arguably wasn't horrible value. I mean, sure, Dickinson's RFA, arbitration rights, but by all accounts, a reasonable price for what will be a reasonable player, presuming he plays in the third, fourth line where, he fits. Like, again, Canucks are actually doing some smart stuff. And by golly, I think people were actually thinking Jim had somehow turned a corner because there was this real big worry, Annie. Let me tell you, there has been a real big worry that Jim was going all out to win this season. And this trade indicated, no, he's going to be smart. This is great. It's going to bode very well.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened?
Jim crushed our dreams, obviously. Just when we were getting excited. But yeah, he traded that first round pick. He got some bad contracts off our books that had 1 year left on them.
1 year.
And picked up one good player, one deteriorating player on a very expensive contract. And yeah, lost a couple picks in the process.
So for some reason, if you're listening to our show and you're not aware of everything that has gone on in the past 2 weeks with the Vancouver Canucks, the likes of a Louis Eriksson deal, a Roussel deal, and a Beagle deal are no longer a Canucks problem. No, they're the Arizona Coyotes problem for at least one season. The Vancouver Canucks also sent their first round pick to the Coyotes, because why would the Coyotes go and take three crazy deals? A crazy deal, a not so good deal, and a deal. And the Vancouver Canucks said, okay, we want Garland in return, which I love the return there. By all accounts, the player is going to fit really well in the top two lines of the Vancouver Canucks, depending where Green deploys them. And Arizona's like, yeah, but the money just ain't right here. And they started, finagling. And as we know, last year, GM Trader Jim really, really was in on OEL, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, for a long time. So much so, he ran out of time on the likes of a Tyler Toffoli and a Chris Tanev and a Troy Stetcher and a whoever name you want to fill in the blank. And instead of having one rough year where suddenly you have cap flexibility, the Vancouver Canucks now have a contract on their blue line that's like the 2021 version of a Louis Eriksson deal. But the scary part is, at least with Louis, we got 2 or 3 decent seasons. Decent to okay, but we got something.
Yeah, we got something.
Like, the
2 or 3 might be
analytics
pushing it, but
on OEL are bad.
Yeah.
And we're making matters worse. If people like, no, analytics aren't the end-all or be-all, you got to see him play. The people who watched him play in Arizona are wondering why the Canucks were so hard on OEL. Like, when you've got Coyotes media saying, yeah, I'm not too sure what the Canucks are looking for, and they're equating it to, the only reason Arizona took those bad deals was because the Canucks took OEL. Like, they view the contracts as the trade, and the pick was for Garland, which I actually think.
Yeah, if that's 1 for 1, right?
If it was Garland for the first overall, yeah, you know what? I don't think we're all that happy about it. But we're like,
take care, yeah.
Okay, I mean, you got to win, right? Like,
Don't you think it's hilarious that one of Jim Benning's few wins is that he left the OEL deal last year? And that was one of the few things that fans celebrated about having the wisdom to walk away.
Collectively, the haters and the, non-haters.
That's something they could agree on. Like, that was a good job, Jim. Like, don't be sucked into that. The term was too much. The money's too much. Good job for walking away. And it turns out they never really did. They never went cold on OEL. They always wanted...
he just ran out of time last year, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. I understand that the Vancouver Canucks blue line was in a tough way. And that's not
undeniable.
Something that anyone could deny. But I feel they could have gone through a season to get to sort of that cap flexibility that was in the distance, and potentially gone and found, maybe through free agency, a stupid deal, fine, because that seems to be what signing Jim does. But I just don't understand where OEL fits within this roster in such a manner that he makes as much money as he does. And the retention on the contract was negligible. Like, arguably, all the Vancouver Canucks did was amortize 1 year's contracts over the course of the next, I think it's 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, it's like, oh, well, why are you so worried about the family's money? Actually, I'm not. I'm more so worried as a fan who's just gone through a retool, rebuild, or who knows what the Canucks have been in the last few seasons. And looking ahead, kind of wonder what's going to happen, because there's still 2 players left unsigned that still need to be signed, and there's a team just south of us with a crap ton of contract money that could potentially be in a situation where they're like, you know what, we wouldn't mind an impact player tomorrow.
Right. And I mean, there's a retained salary part of OEL. I think it's what, 12%.
Yeah, it's like negligible.
And apparently that was key for getting it over the line. But
well, that just because the Canucks they could not fit that within the cap at the time. Like, when the deal was consummated, people are like, "What?" And they're like, "No, they're saving $4 million." No, see, Garland's deal was what, 5 something, which. That he actually signed for what I think Evolving Hockey had actually projected as being his contract. So he signed for the money he was worth. That was the savings gone. And again, there'll be those like, oh well, no, Garland's he fits. It's Chris, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. That could be. I actually hope that OEL was simply sandbagging because he was in Arizona and he was unhappy. Sure, that
sandbagging,
speaks to
good.
A problem character, but
sure. I mean, one excellent desert pun. I'm sure I would not be happy in Arizona either, but yeah, all these, project deals, project players, trying to revive once good career. It's just not how you build a competitive team.
But that's the thing. I'm actually okay with projects, not 6 years in the making. That's called a draft pick.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to pay your draft picks $7 million a year.
Oh, so anyhow, this deal goes down, and again, Canucks Twitter, Canucks social, Canucks fans, people are in sort of 2 camps. Even media, there are many in the media sphere who are pointing out that the OEL deal, it's a good one, but there's a lot of question marks, and then there are those who are like, I don't know what's going on. But the thing that actually struck me when I got that chance to talk to Cam Robinson, and I asked him, would that pick be in play? I don't believe Garland or an OEL deal with Garland was what Cam had envisioned as potentially being the deal where that pick would be in play.
Yeah, I guess we were thinking, more if the Canucks think their guy's available later on, because everyone's draft order is so different, they'd be willing to trade down for a couple of extra picks. But
well, the crazy thing, and we didn't really touch on this, is that prior to this deal, Jim had talked about how he was going to try to get his 3rd round pick back.
But he ran out of time.
He ran out of time. And not only that, it's like, holy smokes, I lost my 1st. Where'd that one go?
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, we talked about this before. It's not like it was a super strong draft. It's not like the player that the Canucks would have got at 9 was guaranteed to be an NHLer and soon. But it's just another lottery ticket that you don't have, especially when they didn't have any in the first 2 rounds last year.
Yeah. I think that's where if it was Garland for the first, it would have been fine. And maybe let's consider maybe Garland is worth more than a 1st round pick. Okay, right. I might entertain. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I think there is value to entertain a conversation. But like, the Canucks right now have gambled that OEL is going to rejuvenate his career in a season, and it's going to somehow bring Lord Stanley's chalice to the West Coast on the Canadian side of the border.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is Jim Benning is just trying to save his job again, so he's kicking the cap problems just and then some. Down the road.
Yeah, OEL is actually the next GM's problem.
Yeah, he's just like, that's a problem for future Jim.
Which is not Jim Benning. Or if it is at that point, I mean, if Jim's still around through more seasons of mediocrity, I don't know what to say. Like, what is there to be said?
Yeah, it's
He is
disappointing.
He is the longest tenured general manager, I think, in the history of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
And save for the few GMs who got like 1 or 2 seasons and therefore didn't have the ability to provide teams that could produce playoff action, Jim is nearly statistically at the bottom of the list. Longest tenured, worst production as a team.
Yeah. Because honestly, looking back in hindsight, you can see why last year, you could argue that they ran out of time to find a new GM. They were still in the like COVID times. Who knows when we're like gonna get out of them? Let's play out this weird COVID season and see how Jim does. But like he made enough mistakes last year to get fired. And we had another season and given him another chance to add problems to this team.
I mean, hindsight will obviously tell all. But if the family decides Jim's not their guy after this season, the family are the ones who are at fault because Jim has arguably set his successor behind significantly. And, why might that be? The OEL deal obviously ties down the cap for the next few seasons. Yeah, I think Garland as a pickup and Dickinson are good. I think that's decent. But you still have Quinn Hughes unsigned. You still have Ellis Pettersson unsigned. These are guys who are going to go and attract significant raises that the Canucks can't afford right now. I mean, JP Barry was actually talking about how the only reason the Vancouver Canucks haven't been able to get to a deal with Petey for 7-8 years is they just can't afford him. Yeah. To get that term, you need these dollars. And the Canucks just, like, the cap prevents them from offering those dollars. And the scuttlebutt is that the Vancouver Canucks are actually genuinely worried about the potential of an offer sheet towards Petey, and they've gone out there, we'll match anything. Oh, I don't deny the Canucks won't match anything, but you match Petey on a crazy deal, guess what? You just saw Quinn go. I mean, you can't afford to keep him very long. And, oh, by the way, when Brock's deal's coming up, I guess Brock's, like, how are you going to afford Brock? He's probably on the way out. Yeah. I mean, there are some significant dominoes that are going to fall. And again, what does that matter to Jim's successor? This is back on the family. Yeah. Fast forward a little bit. We've got no first round pick. So, I mean, I did watch a little bit of the first round of the entry draft. Really enjoyed seeing how excited Quinn was for his brother Luke, who's going to New Jersey. So there are 2 brothers Hughes in New Jersey. And there was a part of me that was wondering, like, is Quinn not excited because Quinn wants to be playing with his brothers by chance? Like,
I don't know if Quinn's capable of that kind of thinking.
Well, I mean,
he's too pure and not that complex a person.
No, I know. It's just like, I mean, I'm not trying to go and read into him being stoked for his brother. If my little brother made the NHL, I would be equally stoked. Even if it was for a team like the Boston Bruins, I'd be so excited for him. Yeah. However, there's sort of something cool about being able to, play a sport with your brother, your father, your cousin, or whatever family member it might have to be. And 2 of the 3 Lukes, 2 of the 3 Hughes are. So.
I mean, I'm sure it's bragging rights and all that, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I'm
awful. I seen the sky is falling.
Yeah, that's because you're a negative Vancouver market person.
I am. But watching the first round, I mean, it was like, okay, cool, Chicago, performative, awesome, yeah, it's great, Blackhawks organization, rah rah rah, and then Montreal's like, yo, I don't know how you say hold my beer en français, but that's what they said.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, honestly, that was a disappointing moment. I don't know why I was disappointed. Don't know why I didn't see it coming, given the climate of the NHL. But Yeah, I will say that hit me.
And it was. Yeah, we'll talk more about this and many other issues when we get into the F word. But what else happened in the land of the Vancouver Canucks? Well, Jake Virtanen is no longer a Vancouver Canuck. The team bought him out. No surprise. I mean, realistically, they signed him to a deal that he did not perform to, and they needed cap space. 2, his situation that he has put himself into is not one I think the Vancouver Canucks want anything to do. And they tried to move him, but there are many other teams out there that weren't all that interested in trading for him. The key is trading for him.
Right.
And, ultimately, as I said in Discord, peace be with you, Jake. I mean that both genuinely and sarcastically, interchangeably. And in this particular case, yeah, peace be with you, Jake. By the way, I hope you've got a good lawyer.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, there are more women have come forward.
Yeah, honestly, obviously, I've said this before. I think they should have done it at the deadline and not waited around to see if there was a deal to be made. But I'm very glad that he's gone. Yeah,
I mean, this is I agree with you, but then put the business hat on. I think that Canucks genuinely wanted a way to get out of the deal. Like they had actually hoped the contract could be voided. And whereas for me, I'm not a business guy. To me, it's the principled take. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see you later.
I just think, Canucks could use some optic wins right now, and that would have been one of them.
Yes. But they weren't stopping there with buyouts. No, they bought out Holtby.
Yeah.
At the last possible minute.
Yeah. Did you see this coming, or did it shock you, or?
I can't say I saw it coming. And again, this has to do more with the fact that he only had 1 year left on his deal. And the savings the Canucks are receiving are somewhat substantial because his base salary is higher this year. So therefore, what the Canucks save this season is higher than they pay for it next year. So I understand sort of if they were going to go buy a player out, this is sort of a player they would target. It's just odd that, could you not have traded him and retained salary to that, extent for one season?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that roadblock was, but
you trade him to another team for nothing, for no return.
Yeah, that's been pretty popular this offseason, right?
Right. So here hey guys, we're going to give you Holtby. We'll even keep paying him for a season to the tune of this. Maybe there is no team out there that wanted to take a flyer on Holtby like that, but I'd have to think there is because hey, you need a guy who might work out for you. Great, here you go. But no, the Canucks chose to buy him out and in turn tie their cap up again next season for the next GM to deal with. Yeah.
Again, like you, I didn't necessarily see it coming, but yeah, is it a massive shock? Maybe not. You have to think that they explored other trade possibilities and found no takers on the retaining salary front. So they, in Halak, they have a goalie who's much more suitable at the price point he comes at, but
yeah, I mean, client Halak is good value.
Yeah, but you do think that it's just trying to undo a mistake, and there's still a cost at doing that.
Yeah, the free agent dips that we saw the Vancouver Canucks make, they actually signed quite a few contracts in free agency, though primarily the deals that they were signing, for the most part, the significant number of them, were for players to stock in Abbotsford, which they needed a team. But before we get in, let's actually talk entry draft, because the Canucks did actually have picks beyond the ones they traded away.
They did.
And in the second round, they drafted Danila Klimovich, who arguably might be Well, the kid says he's coming to the NHL to fight for a spot.
Yeah.
If he's that good, all for you. But I'm pretty sure the kid's not going to be playing for the Canucks out of training camp.
No, I don't believe so either. He seems to have impressed, more recently and gone up in people's draft boards, thanks to a good showing for Belarus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, is he going to be a huge impact player in the next year or so? No, probably not. We'll see him in a couple of years' time.
They also, in the 5th round, see, this is the thing about the Vancouver Canucks. They didn't have a whole lot of picks in the early going. But in the 5th round, where they had 2, because I believe of this, they actually traded their 4th to a 2nd, 5th of their search. Anyhow, they had Aku Kenvo.
I mean, I've even listened to the, goalie guru himself, Quadrelli, and who had spoken to him, and he doesn't know how to pronounce it. So
yeah, and that was what I was going to point out. He was the goaltender of the draft, or
yes,
the Canucks goaltender of the draft, not the goaltender of the draft.
No, but yeah, I think he's an Ian Clark suited guy, so that's. Pick the guy that Ian Clark wants. That's, the recipe for success, I think.
Yeah. A few picks later, they took Jonathan Myrenberg, a defenseman out of Linkoping, and then another defenseman a round later, and Hugo Gabrielsson, also out of Sweden, Västra Frölunda, their junior club.
So,
Connor Lockhart, right wing, at 6th round, and Lucas Forsell from Farjestad. So Connor came from the Erie Otters, for those keeping score at home.
The lone North American.
Yeah. But, the only one that there is some thought that he'll make some noise in the near future, Klimovich. When it comes to Canucks draft picks late rounds, I feel they've actually done a better job at finding sort of diamonds in the rough. I was going to say in a season where they had to rely more on video, less on boots on the ground.
That's the thing. I guess it gave European skaters more of a shot because they're, equally as likely to be picked because they have just as much information. And obviously there were more European leagues going, like the OHL didn't play at all. So a lot of skaters went to Europe. So yeah, that probably gave them more of an advantage. I guess we'll see how all of these, even, the first round picks shake out over the next few years. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how that drafting strategy works out. But as they say, like Canucks have done fairly well over the years. I think the scouts are still good scouts, even if it's just video.
Yeah. Well, so let me rephrase. I'm not knocking the video team at the Canucks. The video team is, I feel, underserved with the Vancouver Canucks, and we sort of talked a little bit about this with the Cam. But entry drafts off, free agency's coming up. But there's just one more tiny little thing that Jim wanted to sort out. See, you hear those hot rumors that Nate Schmidt wanted out of Vancouver, Anna?
I think I heard something about that, yeah.
Yeah, and see, it's just the negative media trying to drum up things. Because Jim came out and said, no, Nate doesn't want out of Vancouver. Well, guess what, y'all? Nate's out of Vancouver. He's in Winnipeg. There was a deal to trade Nate to Winnipeg that Nate would not waive his modified no trade or no move clause to. And it got scuttled. But he was revisited. And
he really wanted out.
He decided, okay, I guess Winnipeg's where I'm going to go. And the Vancouver Canucks got back a 3rd round pick, which I actually, as far as the value here, you paid a 3rd round for Nate. You got a season out of him. You're getting a 3rd round back. You know what? In the grand scheme of things, not the end of the world. But it's telling that Nate Schmidt wanted out of Vancouver.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, to go off the rails, have you seen that Friends episode where Joey's really sad because he's in love with Rachel and she doesn't love him back. So Phoebe gets him her friend's dog to cheer him up, who's the happiest dog in the world.
Can't say I've seen that episode.
Okay, well, Joey basically talks to the dog about his problems and manages to bum out the dog. So that seems to be what happened here. You know, Nate Schmidt was a super positive guy. He had one season in Vancouver. Granted, it was the pandemic. Wasn't a fun year for the Canucks. Plus, there was that COVID outbreak. So, you know, yeah, we broke the dog.
But yeah, Nate is on his way to Winnipeg, leaving, unfortunately, a hole in the right side for the Vancouver Canucks, which already existed, slightly bigger now. So they obviously needed to go and figure things out with free agency, which always bodes very well for Jim. So what do they proceed to do? Well, they go and they sign Brandon Sutter. 1 year, 1.125. Whatever. That's Brandon Sutter.
I mean, it's closer to his real value, so it's good.
You know what? No problem there. They brought back Travis Hamonic on a 2-year deal at $6 million. So I think they had him for $1 million last season, and he got himself a raise.
From doing what? We're not clear. I'm not, dumping on him. Was a tough year for anyone to impress, but
no. But I mean, Hamonic actually wasn't.
He definitely wasn't bad.
Problem. I mean,
he definitely wasn't the problem.
But he got paid free agent money there. They signed Luke Shen to a deal. Luke's coming back to Vancouver. Once he put a ring on it, he decided he wanted to come back to the West Coast. He's on a 2-year deal at 1.7. That's actually really good money. I mean, for the role he's going to play.
Yeah, and
he's probably good in the room.
Yeah, I mean, people like him. Even the negative fans like him. He does well as a stay-at-home guy with offensive defensemen, which the Canucks have plenty of. Mm-hmm. So that's a good role guy for that. I mean, he was definitely an extra in Tampa, but Vancouver doesn't really have the same depth of lineup, so...
Nicholas Patan signed. He's probably going to see his time in Abbotsford. We talked a little bit about Yaroslav Halak coming in. He's 1 year at $3 million, which, if you were to do the math, that's an $800,000 savings over Holtby. But don't worry about that. The money saved is spent next season when Holtby isn't a Canuck or would not have been a Canuck. They signed Kyle Burrows. He's probably going to find his way to Abbotsford. Brady Keeper, probably in Abbotsford. Philip Giuseppe, Abbotsford. Sheldon Dries, Abbotsford. Devontae Stevens, Abbotsford. They signed Brad Hunt, Abbotsford. Justin Dowling, Abbotsford. Justin Bailey's back, but again, probably Abbotsford. Sheldon Rempel, Abbotsford. John Stevens, Abbotsford. Spencer Martin. Oh, no, sorry. I skipped it. I skipped a deal. Only one that I might be trying to forget. Tucker Poolman, right-handed defenseman, formerly of the Winnipeg Jets, signed a 4-year deal worth $10 million. And by golly, it's an interesting acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, that's another raise that you don't quite understand. How? He must have a great agent. How is he? Well, actually, you don't necessarily need one when you're negotiating with the Canucks, maybe.
Well, so the running rumor, and that's all this is that the Vancouver Canucks have a pretty good reputation of paying what is asked of them. So if you start the conversation off well, you don't come and say, I want this, because then the Canucks will throw up the barriers. But you come in, you have a conversation, you start throwing some names on the board, you talk about a range, but eventually you mutually come together with the number you as the agent have informed the team you want. And the Canucks are like, okay. I think that quote I ripped off from American Pie, where if the agent tells you they've been speaking to 12 teams, you divide that by 3. And I kind of feel there's truth there. Just because an agent says that they've been talking, you know what? Probably did talk to 12 teams.
Yeah.
Hi, this is so-and-so agent for Tucker Poolman. Oh, cool. Great player. No fit.
Yeah.
We're not even talking of interest. But hey, I talked to them. the thing, again, that catches me here is when you start to see people who've been watching him in Winnipeg play who are like, I don't understand why Vancouver is so big on the kid. And not only that, you got Myers and Pullman, and
Yeah. Winnipeg are doing some sales jobs on the Canucks, that's for sure.
You know what, right? So I actually asked this question in C4 Discord because there are smarter people than me, our listeners. You, our listeners, are. Like, I don't look like I'm looking at Pullman's analytics. Garbage. For those who are like, Chris, it's more than analytics. I agree. Analytics tell a portion of the story. I am of the mind that analytics help predict, and they provide you the data that's necessary to go and make a much more targeted hypothesis on future play. But then I start looking at some more basic metrics, like production on ice and plus minus, which is a statistic that's been around since the cave days.
Yeah, I
and
believe
they ain't
that's
good
true.
either. Then I look at, well, how many games has this kid been playing? Not that many. Has yet to have a full season, even in a shortened season. And based on what he made last year in his last contract, and now what he's making with the Vancouver Canucks, I'm not a hockey guy. Maybe I just don't understand the code well enough. Why does he get paid this much? And the answer, well, he's a big guy and he's right-handed.
Yeah, I think there were some memes going around when Canucks signed Tyler Myers where, there's this joke that, girls are only into tall guys. Like, is he really boyfriend material or is he just tall? And the meme was, is he really an NHL defenseman or is he just tall?
Just tall. Oh. Yeah, the scary part here is that the money that you've tied up now in your blue line, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, provides you absolutely no means to do anything. Like, you're going to tie up even more when Quinn signs his contract.
No maneuverability around that. So. And has our defense got substantially better?
No. Like, up front they did. You know what? I'll look at Jim and the work he's done with his forward lines, and I'll be like, dude, man, awesome. I'm going to be excited by what's up front. You're going to win games 10-9 because Demko's going to stand on his head.
Yeah.
Like, that's the scary part. The expectation is the Canucks are going to be a high-shooting, highfalutin team, and boy, they'll do well if they can score goals and Demko can be lights out. Your goaltender being lights out and you still needing lots of goals tells you there might be a problem. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah. I was about to go back to another meme, but it's like the budgeting meme. Like, please help, my NHL team is dying. Like, yeah, you're spending how many $1 million on the defense and it's terrible.
And I know there might be some out there like, well, wait a minute. They needed a blue line, and I'm like, I agree, but could they... Like, this goes all the way back to before they acquired OEL. I think for the most part, people understood there's going to be a tough season, but you've got the makings to go and put things together that you're going to be able to go and sign PD and Quinn and sort of build around them. You have a young core, you'll have some flexibility. The Luongo cap recapture is gone next season too. Like, there's all these cool things, and now it's like, well, cool, better win the cup next year. And
yeah, I mean, this team over the last 3-4 years, we've had two bottom, really low finishes, and one scraping into a playoffs thanks to a shortened season and points percentage.
Yeah.
Pick. Imagine this team without the goaltending we've had.
Well, what are you talking about? They're a playoff team, Anna. It was just tough season last year with injuries and COVID, and the league really screwed them over.
COVID that no one else had to deal with.
Oh. I'm just looking at Cap Friendly right now. So the Vancouver Canucks, as of us recording, are currently sitting on about $14 million of space. Now, the likelihood is that Ferland's 3.5 will go LTIR. He's, since our last show, has said that he's probably done as a professional. So let's, for argument's sake, I'm going to round it up. I'm going to say there's $20 million. That $20 million you need to use to sign Petey, Quinn, whatever the heck Dickinson is going to get out of arbitration unless you walk away, at which point, what the heck? You levy, presuming you qualified him, so I think you're going to sign him. And that just sorts out sort of your big club. You still got, Lucas Jasic to sort out. You got, Guillaume Brisebois to sort out. And again, not substantial value here.
Brisebois. You can't let him go.
But, you're then going to have to go and supplement, I think, a little more depth, unless what you brought into Abby and all those deals is your depth with. Okay, if that's the case, cool. That's not a team with a lot of depth, though. So they do all of that. Well, guess what? Next season, you need to find a replacement for Tyler Mott. You need to find a replacement for Brendan Sutter, if not them. Modest money if you can find equal replacements. Brock's arbitration eligible, so he's going to need a big deal. Zach McEwen, arbitration eligible, probably going to be a better deal if you go to qualify him. Matthew Highmore, unless you just brought him in because you needed him, he's arbitration eligible. Jack's going to need a new contract. Brad Hunt, again, that's not a big deal. I don't think you're going to worry too much. You need a goaltender to back up Thatcher. I'm going to presume you're bringing DiPietro up at that point.
Yeah.
And as we go down, you then have William Lockwood needs a deal. Gadjevich needs a deal. And these are all DiPietro needs a deal.
At least this was the last year of the Louis Capri catcher.
Yeah, well, that's okay, because the Capri capture out of Louis, the Vancouver Canucks spent it next season with the Holtby Virtanen buyouts.
Yeah, at least. That's what that saving is.
Cap rewind off, the Vancouver Canucks also acquired Martin Spencer from the Lightning for future consideration.
Spencer Martin, yes.
At least they said futures as opposed to no return.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't even write bag of pucks on those other deals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe that's it. You write that in the Players Insulted. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Utica needs some goaltending depth, presuming that DiPietro is going to take the brunt of the load, the line share, and then in preparation for, backing up in Vancouver maybe the year after. So
yeah, I'm not Spencer being brought over. I'm actually that to me that's depth. That's the Abby stuff. But I just whatever. You know what? I'm on Team Stanley Cup, Anna. Want to know why?
There's no other option?
Exactly. We're going to win it. This is, as of this episode, C4 is now a team playoff podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We're not negative. We are positive. And I will say this, we've complained a lot and we continue to complain. But I've had this sentiment through a lot of media and a lot of our podcasting chums and Canucks Twitter. All the accusations of being negative. We don't want to be that way. We'll be the first to eat our words if OEL just revitalizes his career. We would be so excited to do that.
Yeah, totally. In fact, on that note, especially Clay tweeted I hope OEL and Pullman proved the analytics guys wrong, and I retweeted it because there's people replying to Clay, I hope I really take the screws to him, and I retweeted it by saying the thing about this is the analytics people who are Canucks fans would love that they be proven wrong too. Now they might not like the fact that the models they're using are proven wrong, but as a Canucks fan, you want them to succeed. I would be happy to eat as much crow as necessary. Jim brings a cup here, man. Let's name 6 streets in town Jim Benning way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like Botch said, right? We can't wait for it to go the other way.
That's right. This is a playoff podcast now. I'm going to rename it C4 Canucks Playoffs Podcast.
That's right.
Well, we're going to take ourselves a short break. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Playoffs Podcast from the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
He liked to say the F word.
Well, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Right off.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't.
You. Out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
So, I'm looking at the time here. We've been talking a lot. I was thinking we might get into sort of the PD and Quinn deals in more detail, but let's talk about that when they get signed. So
Yeah, that's a problem for future C4.
That's right, future C4. But what I wanted to get into is what the F is going on with the NHL these days. First of all, the Blackhawks organization is currently conducting an internal investigation to understand whether or not there's any truth to the accusations that they had put someone who, under their employ, that sexually assaulted players. And what's compelling about this to me is that until recently, they've been fighting everything tooth or nail, but under the guise of being a progressive team. Until now, when it's come out, and credit to Rick Westwood, he's been on this. Like, if you need to bring yourself to speed, Rick Westwood has been covering this with, and all credit, he's been one of the few people that has covered this. There are others, but he has been trying to raise a light, and to the point that now the likes of Brent Sopel have allegedly refused to take part in the investigation unless the organization pledges to make public the results. Soap's good old boy. That's someone we should try to get on our show.
Yeah. His reporting's been great. But it's a case of the good old NHL omerta raising its ugly head. Do not speak about hard issues. It's great to see that it's being disturbed a little bit and questioned, but how long it's taken to get to that place?
Well, and on top of that, you have what's going on in Chicago, and you would think other teams would take notice and be like, "Oh man, we wouldn't want to be Chicago right now." If anything, it's we don't want that problem here. And so, can you explain to me, as we sort of talked about earlier, how the Montreal Canadiens go and draft a player like Logan Lee, and then go and say, have the press release ready, because it's a bad pick. You know there's going to be a visceral reaction to this, that you have a press release ready within seconds of the pick to go live on social media to say, oh, we're going to help this player become a better person, and it's our honor to do it.
And then when actually quizzed on how they will do that, they don't have good answers.
Oh, no, not at all. Because it's it's as if they're oh, we're going to say we're going to fix the kid, and people are going to rally around second chances. You know what? The kid, I'm actually all for second chances. And Logan may at some point deserve one. We got silent. Was it?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were mid-sentence there.
Well, the point is that might he deserve one? Maybe. What has he shown?
Yeah.
And demonstrated that says, I deserve a second chance. In fact, I'll give the kid credit to say, don't draft me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the start of your journey. That is not the end.
And when Montreal drafts you, if the kid came out and said, you know what, I told the teams not to draft me. I got a lot I need to work on. I appreciate the Canadiens, blah, blah, blah. But here's what I'm going to go and do. And until such time, I'm not. There was opportunity to actually demonstrate some acknowledgement of what he has done and what he has done. How hockey Twitter and hockey teams and media are rallying around this kid oh, he made a mistake. I'm sorry, sexual exploitation of a minor? Passing around nude pictures? That's not a mistake.
Right, but it's also, and I'm not absolving any blame from the actual player, but it's very indicative of hockey culture, right? Where
it is.
Women are objects, and the fact that the Habs thought fit to draft him just reinforced that.
No, the way I look at it, what did Montreal do? They saw an opportunity. To them, that was a hockey decision. Here's a player who was much higher up on lists. I'm positive, and they just saw this opportunity that they just could not pass up.
Yeah, I mean, would another team have taken him in the second round if they passed? Probably. But the fact the Habs did it, even in the wake of because they're not, their hands aren't completely clean in the Blackhawk stuff either.
Oh, no.
I mean, there's Mark Bergevin saying that he had no idea, and Nick Boynton saying everyone knew, including all the Blackhawk stars who right now are saying nothing.
Yeah. It is just absurd. And I was not at all related in any way, shape, or form, but Sportsnet has this animated web series called Hey Berkey on YouTube. Essentially, it's essentially they're different people from Sportsnet asking Brian Burke sort of to tell stories about his time. And one of the things was how did the Vancouver Canucks draft Pavel Bure? And he had said, Mike Penny did the digging. We found 2 game sheets. That meant that Pavel was eligible. He had played 11 games. He was eligible in any round, but the belief within most teams was that a player of his stature could only go in the first 3. So when the Canucks took Pavel, they took a player who was probably going to be picked by many other teams, but they took advantage of the situation. Only they themselves knew. Again, why? Because they wanted the edge. It's a competitive edge. Now, what has Montreal done? They saw an opportunity to get a competitive edge, and they took a player who does not deserve an opportunity in the NHL yet. Hey, he might get a chance to play in the NHL. You know what? I'm all for second chances. Second chances are not something you simply give just because. You need to earn it. And let's be honest. If he signs an entry-level contract, right? Just an entry-level contract, that's a ton of cash that he has been granted despite everything he has done to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today and kind of had to stop thinking about it, because if you look at what women in professional male sports have to do to participate, get a job as an analyst or whatever, usually you have to have played, maybe for Team Canada or Team USA, or you just have to know somebody or have some connection. You have to be perfect all the time, or you get insulted online. You probably will do anyway. You'll probably get death threats, sexual comments that you don't want, and all that. If you're a female fan in the league, we heard from our good friend Sarah Laug earlier in one of our episodes, and I've experienced it definitely. Our good friends abroad experience it. As fans, you get a lot of comments and ignorance, and if you're not perfect, you don't have a place in the game. But a man can treat a woman like an object. He can, sexually assault her. He can take pictures of her in compromising positions and share it with all his friends without her consent, and you get a job. And it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. And this is a tough part of our show because there's a whole lot that still doesn't feel good. For instance, Mr. D'Angelo got himself a job.
Yeah. That's another thing you can do. You can be openly racist. You can, use your platform as a professional NHL player to spread bigoted views. You get another job.
I think, if anything, the fact that the Hurricanes were the team to sign him caught many by surprise, because as far as organizations go, the Carolina Hurricanes had built up what appeared to me, again, being significantly further on the outside looking in, a community that is trying to become more inclusive.
Yeah,
and then they go and sign Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah, again, with very little thought behind how they're actually gonna build bridges with the community around that and how Tony D'Angelo has deserved that second chance.
Yeah. Again, and I know I've stressed this before, second chances, I am a firm believer of people being granted opportunities once they have earned the right to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And yes, there might be a scale of severity, and no, I am not the person to go and define what that would be.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be this much up for debate that a player like D'Angelo gets another shot in the leg. Because guess what? If this is the way things are, someone like Jake Virtanen is going to get another shot in the leg. And before anyone here and our listeners go, wait, you're convicting him. I'm not convicting him. I'm not a judge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the end of the day, I believe the victims here. And there have been multiple people who have come forward, multiple women have come forward. And it's believable in my mind.
Yeah.
Because of hockey culture. And
exactly, hockey culture has that damaging, toxic masculinity behind it. And I mean, our good friend Sam Chang has stressed this on Twitter. Innocent until proven guilty is a legal standard. It's a criminal standard. None of us are lawyers or in court. Sam is, but we don't have to operate. Yeah.
Did you see that tweet? Like, she got recognized by her peers as being a top criminal lawyer, and it's like,
yeah, Sam knows of what she speaks. Definitely. But we don't have to operate by those standards. No. In fact, as a woman, it would be dangerous if you operated only by those standards. I'm saying that from personal experience. If you don't listen to women when they say stay away from this person or this club or this street or this area, it's dangerous. And you don't say, oh, well, I'm going to wait to hear what the court says. You listen.
Oh, damn straight. I mean, and this is like, someone was trying to argue that that's not the way the system works. It's, again, one of the many idiots that engages with Sam because they somehow got a law degree. But I was sort of thinking, like, the criminal justice system, yes, you're innocent until you're proven guilty, and it is proven without a reasonable doubt. It is a legal construct, and that, I believe, is important. Simply being proven innocent is not necessarily being proven not guilty. It's very important to understand that. Not guilty does not mean you are absent of responsibility. Yeah. It's that the court or Crown, in this case, wasn't able to go and provide the amount of proof. Then the burden is upon them. In a civil trial, it's a balance of probabilities. Now the burden is much less significant. And an example, which is, again, in the United States, O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty of murder, and yet civilly got taken to the cleaners by the victims' families. Why? Because the balance of probability said that he did it, and or if not, was responsible. Are you telling me OJ was wrongfully sued and the courts backed up? Because he appealed it and the courts denied it. I'm sorry. No, it's that the burden differs. And now we're in the court of public opinion. And to your point, Anna, if someone were to tell you, don't go here, damn straight, if I heard that you weren't listening to them, I'd be concerned. And I'd have to go and be dad on you. And you do not want me as dad. You already have to deal with me as host.
No, I definitely don't want that. But yeah, you're 100% right. And it is extremely difficult to get sexual assault conviction in a criminal court. So if charges are dropped, if no charges are brought, if someone is found not guilty, none of that means that they didn't do it.
No, exactly. That it's you know what? They're innocent of all charges, but not of action. Yeah. And, it's important to understand that it is possible throughout this that Jake is a victim here. But I don't feel that that is necessarily the case, nor should it be, because I believe the victims that are coming forward.
Yeah.
And you'd think, you know what, Anna, you'd think that was the last thing to talk about with the NHL. But no, it just recently come out that Evander Kane is a deadbeat.
Yeah.
On a whole number of different levels. And not only that, the NHL's like, oh man, this is bad. Nothing else bad's happening in the league, but this is bad.
Yeah, this is the thing we should definitely investigate and take it upon ourselves to do so. Don't get me wrong, like, betting, if you were guilty of betting against your own team and throwing games,
games?
Yeah. That's
there's
bad. Like, don't get me wrong, but the fact that they're not willing to get involved in any of the Chicago Blackhawks stuff,
well, see,
and yet jump at the chance.
The league, in my mind, and who am I, other than just some random podcaster, is saying with the Blackhawks, that's actually not that bad. We trust the team to sort that stuff out. No, man. We don't think assaulting players sexually is a bad thing. But hot damn, man, you bet against sport, that's a trust issue. Oh, yeah, we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. That's bad. That's worse than assault. We don't like that. But you know what?
Yeah.
Not a big... I'm so sorry here, but if they had ignored the Evander Kane issue, I would have been shocked. But if they ignore sexual assault accusations from league officials, that doesn't shock me. That should speak very highly to where the NHL's priorities are to me as just your common fan.
Yeah, 100%. And the NHL aren't alone in this. I mean, every sport I can think of takes betting allegations far more seriously than anything like.
For North American fans who followed Major League Baseball, if I mention the name Pete Rose, generally speaking, you know that's the guy who bet on sport. The thing about Pete, though, he did bet on the sport. He didn't ever bet on his team. In fact, it was proven that he never bet on his team. Major League Baseball's banned the guy. You can't even mention his name. Don't find any records of Pete Rose. That's how hard they came down on betting in sport. And the NHL has had a history of people within the game betting on sport.
Yeah, I mean, in cricket, there's a very long, drawn-out investigation into racism within Yorkshire Cricket Club over a number of years. It took a long time for them to doing anything, and there's lots of denials, and nothing much seems to be happening. But if you don't tell somebody that you got approached about match fixing, even if you didn't do anything, that can get you banned.
Which, as it should.
Yeah. And we're not saying, like, Evander Kane should be absolved of or guilt at all. It's bad. And he obviously has some addiction issues, and clearly and I feel very sorry for his wife who's having to exist in that as well.
Well, I mean, reading the story that she shared on social media, again, maybe we're only hearing one side of this story.
Yeah.
But is it that far-fetched to think it could be true? I don't think so. Like, Evander Kane, I think it's quite clear based on his legal troubles, has issues with betting.
Yeah. And
gambling is an issue with this kid.
Has been a constant issue for him.
Like, go back to the lockout where wasn't either pictures of him in Vegas just like flashing significant amounts of US dollar bills or 100 bills or whatever. Like the kid, like he doesn't get it. He didn't get it back then. Maybe he gets it now, but he didn't stop himself. And you know what? Maybe he needs help. Maybe he does have a gambling addiction and he needs help and assistance. I'm all for the kid getting that level of support that he deserves. But the problem is that doesn't absolve you of what you have done wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there are consequences. It is like and this is something I've seen people start banning about, specifically with Evander Kane, this cancel culture concept. And that's consequence culture. Like, and these are significant consequences that he's going to face. That is not cancel.
100%. I know Robin Leonard's been spouting off online that he got a ton of support, and Evander Kane has not. I mean, I think he does deserve support, but that doesn't mean that yeah, he should be absolved of all blame. I mean, his wife and child, if we are to believe her claims, like struggling to pay the bills, they can't, keep their utilities on, and he's living up a party lifestyle. Like, that's
like the thing about Robin Leonard that I could not understand is is there something about Leonard that I don't know, like where not only, like, again, it's not the help part and the support part, it's that what you've done and the actions that you have taken that have been so abhorrent. Like, I've never gotten that I've never heard anything about Leonard. It's about someone who identified, personal demons and needing assistance and support. And I'm, again, all for Evander Kane getting that. But that doesn't absolve the consequence of the issue. It's like people who alcohol and alcoholism, I was a different person. And everything that I did, it was the fuel to that fire. You know what? You're right. It totally is. Alcohol addiction and alcoholism is a significant problem. But that doesn't absolve everything that you've done
and
as an alcoholic.
I agree that Robin Leonard, I will support someone speaking up about mental health difficulties all day long. But yeah, I think he mentioned that his marriage, suffered, that his wife was really almost punished by his mental health. And yeah, that means she deserves support too. It doesn't mean that he's blameless in that. No.
And I think that's something with Robin Leonard. Like, Robin acknowledges that.
Which is, it's good.
Evander, in his response, no, man, she cray-cray.
Right.
I paraphrase. And took a lot of creative liberty there. But that's the problem, is that, Evander at this point is in a state of denial. And if none of that is true, as it very well might not be, fair enough, there are too many on a balance of probabilities that suggest otherwise.
Yeah. And
one of them is the fact that he is currently in legal trouble himself.
Yeah, I would say
outside of this,
someone needs help there. If none of what she was claiming is true, then she needs a lot of help. But I think let's look into this before we start absolving Evander Kane of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, it's man, I'm getting to this point where, I'm tired of talking about this.
I know. Me
But
too.
you know what?
I'm exhausted.
I don't think you or I plan on stopping. We're going to continue to talk about these tough issues. But wouldn't it be nice if there was an opportunity for that not to be the case? Where we could see this league that we enjoy talking about, we enjoy watching, actually start to turn a corner? Could we not have more of what we see the Seattle Kraken as an organization do happen throughout the league? Could we not see teams recognize that, inclusivity is more than just a word and a campaign that you have once a season?
Yeah, because Chris, if we're exhausted, imagine how, people of color feel as hockey fans. Imagine how victims of sexual assault feel, of homophobia in hockey feel. We're white and straight, and we're not, facing any significant violence or prejudice every day.
I was about to say we have it easy, but frankly, I have it easy because I'm a white straight male.
Right.
Right.
And then I only experience some small portion of what other people do, so we got to keep talking.
Right. And we've said this on our show before. We'll continue to say it again. If it's a business decision that the league and these teams are making that has them think that they can't do anything to change this, do you know how many fans you might have that you're actually making uncomfortable and it nearly impossible to embrace something that they might themselves enjoy? You have a market available to you to tap into, a non-traditional market. In fact, you have many non-traditional markets that you could tap into, and yet
Yeah. You must have heard it in your work, I've certainly heard it in mine, that the business case for EDI, if that was the only thing you were considering, like the business case for equality, diversity, inclusion is massive.
Yeah. And it's funny you mention that. In my day job,
line.
We're now, as an organization, looking for ways to ingrain we call it DEI, same thing. The acronym is about inclusivity, diversity, and equality. So in which order? We're looking for ways to ingrain that within our corporate culture, whether it be through training, whether it be through engagement, not only within our business as a company and internal, but then how can we look to ensure that what we're doing also embraces it as part of our business practices and our sales operation. And why are we doing that? Because one, it's the right thing to do, but two, the business case supports that this is good for business.
Yeah.
And like that's the part that I just don't get. It's like it's good for business, and it's not just being performative and using words.
Yeah. And this is why the NHL continues to be a marginal sport.
Yeah. And, one final thought on this, if anyone from the NHL is listening, because I know they all do. I mean, the longest running Canucks podcast out there. If you need a comparable league to look at, which is not a perfect one in its own, but one that you can look towards, because you've compared yourself to them before, the NBA. The NBA does more than you have ever done, and look at how their business has grown. They've got a long way themselves to go, but by golly, if the NHL were to get to NBA levels, imagine, what more it could do.
Yeah.
Anyhow. You know what? We'll talk about this. It's going to be ongoing. It sucks, but it's just the reality is in 2 weeks' time, we'll probably be talking about more stuff the league is up to. But at this point in time, I thought it would be prudent to bring in one of our longtime listeners, Ian from Saskatoon, dropped us a voicemail, which you yourself can do as well. 604-200-6201. That's 604-200-6201. You can either send a text message or drop a voicemail. And if we can, we'll include it next show. So here are Ian's thoughts.
Hey, Chris, Nana. Ian from Saskatoon here. It's been a little while, and I've been able to process some of the recent moves that the Canucks have made. Let's start with the trade that was over a season in the making. OEL to Vancouver. I imagine this trade was mostly about getting Connor Garland, but adding Oliver Ekman-Larsson was a way for the Canucks to get out of other short-term money and help the Canucks this year. OEL has had a couple of down seasons recently, but these last 2 seasons have been pretty weird, and I'm not sure it's fair to judge him solely on them. However, he's only had a positive plus-minus in 2 of his first 3 seasons and has been a minus player ever since. I don't think he was brought in for his defensive prowess. He was brought in to help more offensively. He averages about 1 point for every 2 games played throughout his career and already has 128 goals. The Canucks wanted more help on the power play, and in OEL they got that. So far, the Canucks have brought in 3 other new defensemen, Tucker Poolman, Brad Hunt, and Luke Schenn. None of them have been plus players through their careers, but Tucker Poolman is only a -1 through the 3 seasons he has played in the NHL. In goal, I think that Halak is a good pick to back up Demko, and 1.5 isn't too much. Hey, sorry about that. I think my message was too long and I got cut off at the end there, so I'll try and continue. In goal, I think that Halak is a good pick to back up Demko, and 1.5 isn't too much, but he'll most likely carry a second 1.5 cap hit the following year when he'll most likely also be gone. Adding Connor Garland to the forward group, I think is going to help the team. I think the Canucks are poised to be better at scoring this season, but I'm concerned that the 9 defensemen that are currently listed on Cap Friendly are combined -237 throughout their careers. Let's say that I'm cautiously optimistic that they can be a better team this year. Thanks for being the best, mediocre, and longest running podcast out there. All right, thanks. Bye.
I mean, Ian, he's touching on a lot of what we talked about over the course of 2 phone calls. Many apologies, Ian. You've proven out that I think it's a minute and a half was the limit of our voicemail. So apologies for that. But I'm curious what your listeners think. Do you agree with what Ian has suggested? Do you have similar questions? Because I'd like more sort of listener interaction in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great to have, messages responding to other messages. Wouldn't that be good? Mm-hmm. So send us a text, send us a voicemail. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the few Canucks podcasts out there with a phone number. Put it to use. You want to order, pizza? You could do that too. What's it'd have to be like tropical Hawaiian's a good pizza.
Yeah. I think we're in the minority on that one, Chris. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's all the reason for people to complain and call the C4 text line. Also, conversations happen in real time in C4 Discord, and it's not only a place for Canucks fans. No, if you happen to be a Seattle Kraken fan, come on in. I'd like to provide a little place for the Kraken fan to chat hockey, whether you want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks, generate a little bit of a heat in the rivalry that's going to be happening. But also, I mean, I recognize there's fans of the Canucks who now are fans of the Kraken.
They're okay too.
Let's find a place to chat. C4 Discord is accessed by going to discord.io/C4 podcast. But here we are wrapping up another pretty lengthy show, obviously, because there's a whole lot to talk about. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a very special guest. I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag right now. John Barr, he's making a triumphant return. He'll come and join us and talk a little bit about the Seattle Kraken's efforts in the past month. I mean, that's obviously the length of time it'll take by the time we have him on, middle of August. But he'll tell us what his thoughts are after expansion, free agency, draft, and where he sees the Seattle Kraken fitting into the division. And maybe by then they'll have offer sheeted Petey.
Yeah. Maybe if they have, do we ban him? No.
We couldn't ban John.
Yeah, I don't think we could either. And he can gloat about being right about Kole Lind all those months ago.
That's right. I mean, John Barr is a smart guy. But yeah, if you for some reason don't know who you're talking about, John Barr, he's one of the 3 hosts of the Sound of Hockey podcast. He joined us last year, December 2020. He's going to be back just before the start of the season. And guess what, Anna? We're getting close to NHL hockey coming back on the ice. Preseason will start in September, which is only a month-ish away, and then an NHL season to boot, where fans may or may not be in the rink.
Yeah, I mean, we may or may not be crossing the border.
Yeah, true that. But what final words of wisdom do you want to share with everyone?
Well, I think it's not been the most upbeat of shows.
No.
We're usually super sunny and positive, but that hasn't been one of those times. So I will share that this coming season, I think the Canucks look better. And I think with the forward lines they have, the Canucks will be a better team this coming season than they were last. Will it be enough? I don't think so. And will it put them in a whole heap of trouble after that? Yeah, I think so. But I'm excited to see, Connor Garland, Jason Dickinson. I'm excited to see Petey come back.
Healthy.
See the Lotto line in action. See Thatcher Demko go from strength to strength. There's going to be fun things along the way.
Words of wisdom from me is embrace the fact that this year has to be it. We are the C4 Canucks Playoffs podcast. I'm going to rebrand us that. The longest running best mediocre, we now believe in the playoffs podcast.
It's kind of a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, we don't do anything easy here at C4. We started, Clay and I took the easy road out when we called ourselves C4.
True.
Instead of Chris and Clay's Canucks commentary, because that was the mouthful.
True.
But, Clay should, at least he didn't go and call his YouTube channel, like 3C.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of now doing us well that it's C4 and no one really remembers what it stands for.
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
I'm old, like dirt.
Exactly.
Yeah. But on behalf of Anna, A4603, myself, Chris at Lightforce, you're listening to the C4 Canucks Playoff Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com. You can find us online at the C4 Podcast and at C4Podcast.com. By the way, we out.